Hi, welcome to the Curiosity Podcast. I'm Gary J, your host, and today I'm asking the question, are we all just clones?
The desire to know and learn something.
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.
Now, as most of you know by now, I'm a curious little bugger, and I like to question almost anything that either doesn't make sense or is just plain weird. And the reason for this is because my mind works a little bit different to most other people's. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, there I was in the bath the other night, soaking away, minding my own business, and then my brain decided to spring to life and ask,
Hey you. Hello? Aye, you. Hello? It's your brain here. What do you want? You never work. I've got a wee question to ask you. Okay. Now listen. Right. What if there's another you somewhere else in the world?
What?
And you are not as unique as your mother led you to believe.
That's interesting.
Alright, that's question over. By the way, stop playing with your wee tinkle. You'll go blind.
Well, obviously, this got me thinking, and then my brain went into a bit of a tangent and started throwing all sorts of questions at me, like,
Hey, not you again. What if you're just a planet of clones? Or what if there's numerous people that look like you on Earth?
and now you've got me thinking,
Or what if there's always been people that look like you since the beginning of time?
will you piss off? I'm trying to have a bath.
Aye, well you're washing your wee tinkle a bit too much, ain't you?
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.
Now, I know it's a bit of a wild theory, but is it possible that there are only so many designs that we actually come in? I mean, if you look on the internet for clones of famous people, you will see pictures of celebs next to old photos of people that look like them as far back as the 1500s. Now, obviously, I can't say how real these photographs are, especially with the advancements in things like Photoshop, but some of them really do have a canny resemblance. Now, some people are actually saying that these are time travellers, and even though that is a really interesting theory that I will look at in the future, it also makes you wonder if we are just clones that are just being recycled. Well, I suppose if you went back to my podcast a few weeks ago, which was called What Happens When You Die, I did mention the possibility of us just moving to the next parallel universe in order to live your life again, which would add some credence to the theory, as this would mean that your clone is being used over and over again. Now, if you haven't heard that episode, then you need to check out that podcast as well.
You're listening to the Curiosity Podcast.
Anyway, I'll move on to what I was saying. So imagine there's another you somewhere else in the world. The same hair, the same eyes, ears, nose, even the same smile and teeth. And in my case, the same fat. But how does that happen? Well, there are loads of stories about people finding others that look like their twin, and who have never met before and are no relation, but yet still look exactly the same. Now, the question we should be asking is, how does this happen? I mean, I look the way I do because of a fusion between my parents' DNA, which has resulted in this perfect specimen of fat and goddamn sexiness. So if this is the case, then how can someone else look almost exactly the same who has no relationship to me and no connection to my family whatsoever?
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.
Now, some people might argue there's a flaw in my little mind bend, because if we were all clones, then surely that would mean that we've all been inbred at some point, and we'd now be seeing some evidence of that because inbreeding often results in children being deformed or having some other sort of issue. Well, maybe people with such afflictions are just at the end of their cloning cycle. I mean, what if John Merrick, who was the Elephant Man, was at the end of his, and that is why he was so disfigured? I mean, if you even wanted to take things further, what if in the future we've managed to clone things, and we've now even mastered time travel, and everything we're experiencing now is nothing more than an experiment by ourselves in the future in order to see what happens in different scenarios? Or what if we're just an experiment for aliens who are just cloning us constantly, and that is why it's claimed that they keep abducting people and then probing them? Maybe they're just trying to see how far the cloning process has gone.
You're listening to the Curiosity Podcast. podcast.
See, I will guarantee if you go onto the internet after this and type in "Find My Twin" into Google, you'll get a whole host of websites offering you help in finding people that look just like you. If you go onto the site ilooklikeyou.com, I'm not being paid for this, by the way, and it's not an advert for them in any way, it's just the first site I came across. They claim that each of us have at least 6 lookalikes around the world. Well, if that statement is true, how can this be? Because, like I said, I was always under the impression that it was a fusion of our parents that made us who we are. So surely that would mean these 6 other doubles of me had parents that looked and shared a lot of DNA characteristics of my parents, which in turn would also mean that my parents and their parents weren't unique either. So because of this, does this mean that science has made a massive mistake? Or that we've been lied to for as long as we can remember? I mean, before the internet, we would believe anything we were told by our kings, queens and governments. But now, the world has opened up to us and we are starting to question more and more. Which, in turn, would make any government or world order find it harder and harder to come up with answers to people's questions.
You're listening to the Curiosity podcast.
So, he's still not convinced? Well, if you look at people like actor Will Ferrell and Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, they almost look identical, but are in no way related. Now, even Ed Sheeran has a double by the name of Wesley Byrne, who stacks shelves in Asda here in Manchester. No, really, he really does. If you check his name out on Google and he's spelled Wesley and then Byrne is spelled Byrne, check it out, have a look, and you'll see he looks exactly like him. Now, the other thing is, if you type in time travelling celebs, you'll see doubles from everyone from John Travolta to Orlando Bloom, Eddie Murphy to Jay-Z and more. Now, I know all this might be a bit out there, but what if we're not as unique as what we first thought, and your next clone is just sat there waiting in a test tube for their turn? Anyway, thanks for listening to Curiosity, and remember, you can also listen on iTunes, SoundCloud and YouTube, plus watch the TV series on Amazon Prime. Also, don't forget you can visit my website at curiosityuk.net. Don't forget there's a new podcast every Thursday. Thanks for listening, and remember, do something that scares you.
The desire to know and learn something.
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.